The underwater environment is filled with sounds, although it seems almost silent to humans. Many species of fish are capable of producing acoustic signals in various ways. Some use the rubbing of bony structures, others create vibrations in their swim bladders, and some snap their jaws. These signals serve important functions, from defending territory to attracting mates and coordinating within groups. The limited capabilities of human hearing underwater prevent us from perceiving most of these frequencies. However, for the ocean's inhabitants, acoustic communication plays a crucial role. In English tradition, the terms nanny are used for female goats and billy for males. These colloquial names have become entrenched in rural culture and reflect the everyday perception of the animals. The female is associated with caring for offspring, while the male is linked to an independent and stubborn character. Such linguistic forms demonstrate humanity's desire to attribute individual traits to animals and to form an emotional connection through language. The vocabulary of the farming community often preserves these vivid designations across generations. Tokyo Tower externally resembles the Eiffel Tower, but it differs not only in color, but also in structural features. Built in the middle of the 20th century, it is made from more modern grades of steel, which significantly reduced the overall weight of the structure compared to its Parisian prototype. The orange and white coloring was chosen in accordance with aviation safety regulations. The tower has become a symbol of the post-war recovery of the country and technological progress, combining engineering strength and visual lightness in a single architectural image. A white coating on the surface of chocolate does not always indicate that the product is spoiled. Most often, this is what is known as fat bloom, a result of cocoa butter migrating to the surface due to fluctuations in storage temperature. Visually, the chocolate appears dull and lighter, but its taste and safety are usually unaffected. This change is related to the recrystallization of fats and does not indicate the growth of microorganisms. Manufacturers often clarify the nature of this phenomenon to prevent the mistaken perception of the defect as a sign of unfitness for consumption. In the mountainous regions of India, a technology for collecting moisture from fog is used to provide water for the population. Special mesh structures capture tiny droplets that condense on the surface of the material and then flow into storage tanks. This method does not require complex infrastructure and is particularly effective in areas with frequent fog but limited sources of fresh water. The solution is based on natural condensation processes and demonstrates how adaptation to climatic conditions can ensure sustainable water supply. Digital watches provide greater accuracy compared to mechanical models due to the use of a quartz generator. The oscillations of the quartz crystal occur with high stability and serve as a reference for measuring time. Mechanical mechanisms, based on a system of springs and gears, are subject to gradual wear and require regular adjustment. As a result, the discrepancy in readings for electronic devices is usually measured in seconds per month, while for mechanical models, it can be significantly greater. Nevertheless, mechanical watches are often perceived as a symbol of craftsmanship and status. In ancient Rome, personal grooming often included methods that would seem extreme today. To give their hair a rich, dark hue, some noblewomen used a tincture made from leeches. They would place the leeches in a vessel and leave them to decompose, after which the resulting mixture was applied to the hair as a dye. Despite the strong odor and the complexity of the procedure, this method was considered effective and was part of the cosmetic practices of its time. This example shows that the desire for beauty throughout the ages has driven people to experiment with the most unexpected substances. On Venus, there is an atmospheric optical phenomenon known as glory. It occurs when light is scattered by tiny droplets of sulfuric acid that make up the dense cloud layers of the planet. As a result, concentric colored rings are formed, resembling a glowing halo. Unlike the earthly rainbow, which is associated with water droplets, the Venusian glory is due to a different chemical composition of the atmosphere. This phenomenon confirms that the physical laws of light propagation are universal and manifest even under the extreme conditions of other planets. The history of fire-starting devices contains an unexpected fact. The first lighter appeared before modern matches. In the year 1823, the German chemist Johann Wolfgang Dobereiner developed a device that operated on hydrogen and created a flame upon contact of the gas with a catalyst. Despite the bulkiness and potential danger of the design, the ignition principle was similar to modern counterparts. Matches, in their familiar form, emerged a few years later, altering the common perception of the sequence of inventions. Rabbits have an important physiological feature. They lack the ability to vomit. The structure of their digestive system allows for a one-way movement of the contents of the gastrointestinal tract, which is related to the efficient extraction of nutrients from plant food. This adaptation reduces energy losses. However, it makes the animals vulnerable to the intake of toxic substances. For this reason, diet control is especially important for domestic rabbits, as they do not have a natural cleansing mechanism. Flamingos demonstrate a rare ability among birds to maintain stability for extended periods while standing on one leg. This posture does not require significant muscle tension due to the unique structure of their joints and tendons, which provide mechanical support for the limb. Research shows that this position can be maintained even during sleep, indicating the high efficiency of their musculoskeletal system. For these birds, such a body position is a natural and energy-efficient state rather than a display of complex balance. The English language has become the primary tool for international communication in modern times. It is used by more than 1,300,000,000 people around the world, including native speakers and those for whom it is a second language. It is widely used in science, business, aviation, and the digital realm, which has solidified its status as a global intermediary between cultures. As a result, even in remote regions of the planet, there is a high likelihood of communication occurring in English, significantly simplifying the exchange of knowledge and ideas. Chladni figures demonstrate that sound can manifest in a visual form. When the metallic plate is set into vibration, particles of sand move and gather along nodal lines, where the vibration is minimal. Each tone creates its own geometric pattern, depending on the frequency and shape of the surface. This experiment, known since the 18th century, vividly illustrates the physical nature of sound waves and the distribution of energy in a vibrating system. Observing such structures helps to understand the connection between acoustics and geometry. In Antarctica, near Taylor Glacier, there is a so-called blood falls, a stream of water with a rich red hue. The coloration is explained by the high iron content, which oxidizes upon contact with oxygen, taking on a rusty red color. Beneath the thick ice lies an ancient saline lake with microorganisms capable of surviving in almost oxygen-free conditions. This natural feature is valuable not only as a visually unusual phenomenon, but also as a source of data about life in extreme environments. The Leaning Tower of Pisa was long considered an architectural anomaly due to the noticeable tilt that emerged during its construction. At the end of the 20th century, engineers carried out a comprehensive stabilization project. They partially removed soil from beneath the elevated side and reinforced the foundation with additional supports. These measures allowed for a reduction in the angle of tilt and prevented further displacement of the structure. Thanks to this technical intervention, the monument has been preserved and, according to experts, will remain stable for many decades to come. Glass is made from sand, the main component of which is silicon dioxide. When heated to a temperature of about 1,700 degrees, the solid structure breaks down and the material transitions into a viscous, molten state. After controlled cooling, a solid and transparent substance is formed. The technology for glass production has been known since ancient times and was already used in the civilizations of ancient Egypt to create ornaments and vessels. The transformation of ordinary sand into architectural and artistic elements remains one of the striking examples of how simple, natural raw materials are turned into a complex cultural product. The range of human hearing is limited to frequencies approximately from 20 to 20,000 Hz. Vibrations below this threshold are called infrasound, while those above are referred to as ultrasound, and they are not accessible for direct perception by humans. Many animals have broader auditory capabilities. Dogs can detect high-frequency signals, and dolphins use ultrasound for echolocation. Thus, the acoustic picture of the surrounding world is significantly richer than the part of the spectrum that humans can perceive. In the early 2000s, an unusual atmospheric phenomenon known as red rain was observed in the Indian state of Kerala. The precipitation stained surfaces in a crimson hue, which sparked widespread public interest. Later studies revealed that the color was due to the presence of microscopic particles in the droplets, presumably spores of algae or dust impurities lifted into the atmosphere. The phenomenon lasted for several weeks and became the subject of scientific analysis, demonstrating how natural processes can create effects perceived as mystical. The sentence, "The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog," is known for containing all the letters of the English alphabet and serves as an example of a pangram. Such phrases are used to demonstrate fonts, test keyboards, and teach typing. Their use began long before the digital age. Calligraphers created these texts to practice writing and check the completeness of character sets. Crafting a meaningful pangram requires careful selection of words, as it is necessary to incorporate the entire alphabet within a single coherent phrase. Olfactory receptors have been found not only in the nasal cavity, but also in human skin cells. Research has shown that certain aromatic molecules can interact with receptors in skin tissues, triggering biochemical reactions. In a number of experiments, such substances influenced regeneration processes, accelerating wound healing. This indicates that the skin is capable of perceiving chemical signals from the environment at a molecular level. Such discoveries expand our understanding of the sensory capabilities of the body and the role of receptors beyond traditional sensory organs. Sharks are among the oldest vertebrates on the planet and have existed for more than 400 million years. Their evolutionary origin predates the appearance of the first trees by approximately 50 million years. These marine predators have survived several mass extinctions and significant climate changes, retaining key adaptive traits. The structure of their skeleton, based on cartilage, and their highly developed sensory organs have provided them with resilience in the changing conditions of the ocean, making sharks one of the most successful evolutionary examples. According to researchers, only a small fraction of the world ocean has been thoroughly studied, approximately between 1 and 5% of its area and depths. Most underwater territories remain inaccessible due to extreme pressure, low temperatures, and technical limitations. In these zones, potentially unknown species of organisms and unique ecosystems may exist. The development of deep-sea devices is gradually expanding the boundaries of knowledge, yet the ocean still remains one of the least explored areas of the planet. Of chefs who worked for several days were required for its preparation. The project became a large-scale gastronomic event, combining technology, organization, and culinary skill. Notably, the pizza was made without gluten, making the record dish accessible to people with dietary restrictions. The Amazon has a significant impact on the oceanic environment due to its colossal volume of runoff. Fresh water flows into the Atlantic, creating an extensive area of reduced salinity that extends a considerable distance from the mouth. This hydrological phenomenon alters the chemical composition of coastal waters, affects the distribution of marine organisms, and influences local currents. In terms of its impact on the marine ecosystem, the Amazon has no comparable counterparts among the largest rivers in the world. The Danyang-Kunshan Grand Viaduct is considered the longest bridge structure in the world. Its length exceeds 160 kilometers, and it serves as part of the high-speed railway line in China. The structure spans plains, bodies of water, and agricultural areas, providing stable and rapid communication between major cities. The implementation of the project took about 4 years and required the involvement of thousands of specialists. The viaduct has become an example of large-scale engineering capable of overcoming significant geographical distances. In a small town of Talkeetna in Alaska, tourists are offered an unusual postal presentation featuring a trained bear. The animal does not serve as a real mail carrier, but as part of the show, it carries baskets with correspondence inside the post office. This element has become a part of the local tourist program and attracts visitors who wish to send a postcard with original symbolism. The initiative has transformed a regular postal procedure into a vibrant attraction and a way to highlight the unique character of the town. In the Bavarian town of Oberstdorf, a lifting mechanism has been created that combines the principles of an elevator and a funicular. The cabin moves not strictly vertically, but along an inclined trajectory at an angle of about 45 degrees, transporting passengers up the mountain slope. This design allows for overcoming changes in terrain, where a conventional elevator would be impractical. During the ascent, panoramic windows offer views of alpine landscapes, making the journey not only functional but also spectacular. The project demonstrates how engineering solutions adapt to challenging geography. In Milan, an architectural project named Bosco Verticale has been realized. The complex of residential towers is distinguished by the thousands of trees and shrubs planted on its facades and balconies. The vegetation serves not only a decorative function, it helps to purify the air, reduces noise levels, and creates additional shade, decreasing the overheating of buildings. This approach demonstrates the possibility of integrating natural elements into a dense urban environment. The project has become an example of how modern metropolises can combine high-rise construction with ecological solutions. The blue whale is the largest animal to have ever existed on the planet. Its heart can reach the size of a small car and can weigh hundreds of kilograms. Its large vessels have an impressive diameter, ensuring the circulation of a massive volume of blood throughout a body that is longer than several dozen meters. Each heartbeat supports the life of an organism of colossal mass and operates continuously for many years. The scale of this biological system highlights how far evolution can go in shaping gigantic forms of life. Fleas demonstrate remarkable physical abilities that far exceed their size. They can jump distances that are more than 350 times the length of their own bodies. This is achieved thanks to a special elastic protein called resilin, which acts like a natural spring. The insect stores mechanical energy in its tissues and then releases it instantly, turning its body into a sort of catapult. This adaptation helps fleas quickly escape dangerous areas and effectively move between hosts. The banana is commonly referred to as a tree, but from a botanical perspective, it is a large herbaceous plant. It lacks a true woody trunk. What appears to be a sturdy base is formed by tightly overlapping leaf sheaths. This structure creates a tall pseudostem, allowing the banana to reach impressive heights and often be perceived as a woody crop. In fact, it is the tallest grass in the world, capable of growing to the height of a small building. The fruits, which have become a part of the daily diet of millions of people, develop on this giant herbaceous shoot, making the banana a striking example of the paradoxes of the plant world. Archaeological findings indicate that as far back as 4,500 years ago, primitive dental prosthetics were used in ancient Egypt. Researchers have discovered jaws with artificial teeth secured by means of gold wire. Despite their simplicity, such constructions demonstrate a high level of medical knowledge for their time. The desire to restore lost bodily functions reflects the overall concern of Egyptian civilization for bodily integrity and the preservation of appearance. The first recorded sound was created long before Thomas Edison's phonograph. The French inventor Édouard Léon Scott de Martinville constructed a device called the phonautograph in 1860, which captured the vibrations of sound waves as graphical lines on a soot-coated surface. The device did not allow for playback. It was only after more than 100 years that researchers were able to digitize these traces and restore the sound of the recorded voice, thereby bringing to life one of the earliest acoustic impressions in history. In Sweden, a notification system for blood donors has been implemented, enhancing the transparency of the medical process. After donating blood, a person can receive a message indicating that their donated material has been used to help a patient. This feedback strengthens motivation and fosters a sense of personal involvement in saving lives. Practice has shown that providing information increases the regularity of donations, as people see the tangible results of their participation. This example demonstrates how digital technologies can strengthen the culture of mutual assistance. Approximately 1/10 of the world's population is left-handed, making them a noticeable minority in a society predominantly oriented towards right-handed individuals. Most everyday items and tools are designed with the right hand in mind, creating certain inconveniences for left-handed people. There are hypotheses about differences in the functional organization of the brain's hemispheres that may influence thinking and perception. Despite everyday challenges, left-handed individuals successfully adapt and often demonstrate unconventional approaches to problem-solving. The familiar bright orange color of oranges is a result of climatic conditions, rather than their original natural hue. Early varieties cultivated in Southeast Asia retained a green skin even when fully ripe. In warm tropical climates, chlorophyll in the skin does not break down, so the fruit remains green on the outside while being sweet and juicy on the inside. Only at cooler temperatures does the pigment decompose, revealing the characteristic orange shade that is now perceived as the standard sign of ripeness. The speed of air travel largely depends on high-altitude winds known as jet streams. These powerful air currents form in the upper layers of the atmosphere and primarily move from west to east. If an aircraft's route aligns with the direction of such a current, the air mass increases the cruising speed of the plane and reduces flight time. This is why flights across the Atlantic in an easterly direction, for example from New York to London, typically take less time than the return trips. Pilots and air traffic controllers take the location of jet streams into account when planning routes, using them as natural air highways. In the Australian town of Coober Pedy, a significant part of the infrastructure is located underground. This solution is related to the extremely hot climate of the region, where summer temperatures make staying on the surface difficult. Living quarters, shops, religious sites, and even a post office are set up in the rock formations. The underground spaces maintain a relatively stable and cool temperature throughout the year, which helps reduce the need for air conditioning. For tourists, such an environment appears unusual, but for the locals, it is a practical way to adapt to the harsh natural conditions. The civilization of the Incas, long before the arrival of Europeans, created suspension bridges from natural materials, using grasses and vines as the building foundation. These structures connected hard-to-reach areas of mountainous regions and facilitated communication between settlements across turbulent rivers and gorges. To maintain their strength, the ropes were rewoven annually through the efforts of local communities, turning a technical procedure into a collective ritual. Despite the simplicity of the raw materials, such bridges were remarkably reliable and could withstand significant loads, demonstrating a high level of engineering thought based on an understanding of the surrounding environment. The term robot entered common usage thanks to the play RUR by Czech writer Karel Čapek, published in 1920. In the work, this word referred to artificially created workers designed for heavy labor. It originates from the Czech word robota, meaning forced labor. Over time, the term lost its originally grim connotation and became associated with high technology, automation, and scientific progress. Today, robots are used in industry, medicine, and everyday life, highlighting the impact of this literary idea on the development of technical culture. Standing on one leg is not a display of agility for flamingos and some other birds, but rather a physiological mechanism for conserving heat. Significant heat loss occurs through their limbs, especially when in contact with cold water or air. By tucking one leg under their feathers, the bird reduces the surface area for heat exchange and lowers energy expenditure. Research shows that due to the unique structure of their joints, balance is maintained with almost no muscle tension, allowing birds to even rest in this position. This is an effective example of how anatomy and behavior work together to address the challenge of energy conservation. In present-day Slovenia, archaeologists have discovered one of the oldest known wooden wheels, estimated to be around 5,000 years old. The artifact was made from ash and joined with oak wedges, indicating a thoughtful design. For its time, this technological achievement was of great significance, as it greatly simplified the transportation of heavy loads. The emergence of the wheel marked an important milestone in the development of transportation and crafts, laying the groundwork for subsequent engineering inventions. The Sahara Desert is known not only for its endless sand dunes, but also for a rare acoustic phenomenon, the singing dunes. When dry sand cascades down a steep slope, it produces a low-frequency rumble or a prolonged sound reminiscent of a musical instrument. This effect is related to the uniformity of the grain sizes and their ability to vibrate synchronously when rubbed together. Air vibrations are amplified by the shape of the dune, creating a sustained resonance. To observers, it sounds like a natural melody, which has given rise to numerous local legends about the mysterious voices of the sands. In the mid-2000s, one of the largest known pearls in history was discovered off the coast of the Philippines. A local fisherman accidentally brought up a giant specimen weighing over 30 kilograms from the seabed and kept it at home for many years, unaware of its potential value. It was only later that it became known that this rare natural object could be worth hundreds of millions of dollars. The pearl, named the Pearl of Puerto, impresses not only with its weight and size, comparable to that of a large ball, but also with the uniqueness of its origin. Sharks are compelled to remain in constant motion due to the peculiarities of their anatomy. Most species lack a swim bladder, an organ that allows bony fish to maintain their depth effortlessly. Additionally, to effectively saturate their blood with oxygen, water must continuously flow over their gills. Therefore, movement becomes a vital necessity. Stopping can lead to oxygen deprivation. Even at rest, many sharks continue to swim slowly, using the ocean as a medium for continuous existence. This strategy turns their life into an endless marathon, where movement is equivalent to breathing. In the English language, the poetic term loveliness is used to refer to a group of ladybugs. This collective name emphasizes the aesthetic perception of these vibrant insects and differs from the more neutral terms applied to other species. Linguistic forms of this kind reflect the cultural attitude of society towards nature, embedding emotional connotations in the language. In this case, the very structure of the word conveys an association with something pleasant and harmonious. Ants have a complex digestive system that includes what is known as a social stomach. One compartment is designed for digesting food and obtaining energy, while the other serves as a reservoir for storing food intended for other members of the colony. The transfer of nutrients occurs through trophallaxis, the exchange of liquid food between individuals. This mechanism allows the colony to function as a single organism. Information about a discovered food source spreads simultaneously with the food itself. As a result, ants demonstrate a high level of coordination and collective efficiency. The population of the planet has surpassed 8 billion people, reflecting an unprecedented growth dynamic over a relatively short historical period. Over the last century, the global population has increased several times due to advancements in medicine, agriculture, and technology. While in the past humanity numbered only a few million, today a comparable number of residents can live in a single large metropolis. Such scale brings both serious challenges related to resources and ecology, as well as immense potential for scientific and cultural progress. Some freshwater turtles have the ability to absorb additional oxygen through their cloaca. During cold periods, when bodies of water are covered with ice and access to air is limited, they can extract dissolved oxygen from the water through specialized tissues in the posterior part of their intestines. This mechanism, known as cloacal respiration, significantly reduces the need to surface. Thanks to this physiological adaptation, turtles can remain underwater for extended periods and survive the winter without frequent contact with the atmosphere. Elephants are capable of perceiving the surrounding world not only through hearing, but also through vibrations in the ground. Sensitive structures in their limbs detect low-frequency oscillations that occur when other animals move or during natural phenomena. These signals are transmitted through the bone tissue to the inner ear and then to the brain, where they are interpreted as information about events happening at a considerable distance. This mechanism enhances communication among individuals and increases the safety of the herd, allowing them to respond in advance to potential threats. The blue whale possesses not only record-breaking size, but also exceptional acoustic power. Its low-frequency signals reach levels of around 188 decibels and travel for hundreds of kilometers through the water. Such sounds serve as a means of communication between individuals, allowing them to maintain contact over vast distances. In the aquatic environment, low frequencies propagate particularly effectively, making whales unique acoustic giants of the ocean. Their vocalization represents a complex system of signals, crucial for navigation and social interaction. A group of ferrets in English tradition is called a business, which can be translated as a company of business. This name is associated with their characteristic activity and constant busyness. Ferrets continuously explore their surroundings, show curiosity towards objects, and often interact with each other in an energetic manner. Their behavior resembles organized chaos, where each individual is involved in the collective process of exploring the environment. The ironic name emphasizes the impression of constant hustle and makes observing these animals particularly vivid. Emojis are perceived as a natural part of digital culture, although they emerged relatively recently. They were developed in Japan in the late 1990s for mobile communication. The first version included 176 concise symbols, weather signs, everyday objects, and simple expressions of emotions. Initially, they were created as a convenient addition to text messages within a single network. However, over time, these graphic icons transcended their local project origins and evolved into a global visual code that allows people around the world to convey mood and meaning without words. In Armenia, a record was set for creating a giant chocolate bar weighing more than 4 tons. Its length exceeded 5 meters, while its width approached 3 meters. The production process took about 10 days and required significant amounts of cocoa raw material. After the official presentation, the item was not kept as an exhibit, but was divided into pieces and distributed to the festival attendees. This gesture emphasized the symbolic connection between sweets and the idea of a shared celebration, demonstrating that even a record-breaking culinary creation can become a collective treat. In 2019, Bulgarian Vasily Ivanov demonstrated an unusual achievement by extinguishing 58 candles in a single breath. To accomplish this record, a device was used that evenly distributed the airflow along the line of flames. This design allowed for the maximum effective use of lung capacity. The result was officially recorded in the Guinness World Records, confirming that even a simple action under certain conditions can become a subject of global recognition. The Mona Lisa is a work in which even the tiniest details spark scientific discussions. One of the features of the painting is the almost complete absence of noticeable eyebrows on the model. Researchers propose various theories, ranging from the artistic intent of the creator to the gradual loss of pigment during restorations and the aging of the paint layer. Regardless of the reason, this characteristic affects the perception of the facial expression. The human brain is accustomed to reading emotions through familiar cues, and their absence heightens the sense of ambiguity, making the famous smile even more mysterious. Ancient Egypt is considered one of the earliest stable governmental systems in human history. The formation of a unified kingdom began more than 5,000 years ago, after the unification of Upper and Lower Egypt, which marked the start of centralized power. Monumental pyramids, temple complexes, and the cult of the Nile River became not only architectural achievements, but also the foundation of the religious and social structure of society. At a time when many regions were still in early stages of development, the Egyptians were already using writing and creating complex engineering structures, leaving a rich legacy for subsequent civilizations. The Furby toy, which emerged in the late 1990s, sparked public outcry due to rumors about a possible voice recording feature. Some institutions in the United States temporarily restricted its use on their premises, fearing potential privacy risks. It was later confirmed that the device did not have the capability for covert information transmission, and the concerns were based on a misunderstanding of how the electronics worked. This episode became an example of how new technologies can provoke unfounded fears in society. Ants exhibit an impressive ratio of strength to body mass. An individual ant can carry a load many times greater than its own weight, which is explained by the structure of its exoskeleton and the efficient functioning of its muscles. Due to their small size, the load is distributed differently than in larger animals, allowing them to withstand significant relative efforts. Within a colony, this advantage transforms into an organized system for transporting food and building materials. Such collective coordination makes an ant nest an example of high biological efficiency. Observations of bat colonies have shown that during mass exits from caves, they often follow a leftward trajectory. It is believed that this behavioral strategy reduces the risk of collisions in conditions of high population density and limited visibility. A unified direction of movement simplifies spatial coordination, especially when using echolocation. This unspoken rule of movement enhances the safety of the entire group and demonstrates how collective behavior can be shaped in response to environmental demands. Mercury is the smallest planet in the solar system and the closest to the Sun. Its diameter is about 5,000 kilometers, which is less than half of Earth's. Despite its compact size, Mercury's orbital motion is extremely fast. It completes a full orbit around the Sun in approximately 88 Earth days. The planet's surface is characterized by sharp temperature fluctuations, from extreme heat on the sunlit side to intense cold in the shadow. This combination of small size, high speed, and harsh conditions makes Mercury one of the most contrasting worlds in our system. According to estimates by ecologists, by the middle of the 21st century, the volume of plastic waste in the world's oceans could exceed the combined mass of fish. Even now, millions of tons of synthetic materials are accumulating in the seas, forming vast garbage patches. Plastic virtually does not decompose naturally, and over time breaks down into microplastics, which enter the bodies of marine animals and subsequently the food chains. The scale of the threat underscores the need to reassess consumer habits and waste management systems to preserve marine ecosystems. In the heart of London, there is an unusual entertainment space created in a former subway tunnel and styled like a beach. Inside, there is an area with a sandy surface, decorative palm trees, and lighting designed to mimic a sunset sky. Parties, concerts, and themed events take place here, creating a contrast between the industrial environment of the underground and the atmosphere of a resort. Trains continue to run above the venue, yet inside there is a feeling of an isolated world. The project has become an example of creative reimagining of urban infrastructure and unconventional use of underground spaces in the metropolis. The national anthem of Japan, Kimi ga Yo, is considered one of the most concise in the world. Its text consists of only 32 characters and is performed in less than a minute. Despite its brevity, the content expresses a wish for longevity and prosperity for the country and its people. The work is rooted in poetic tradition and resembles a condensed form of classical Japanese poetry in style. Unlike many anthems filled with narratives of military exploits, the Japanese version is based on symbolism and imagery, which gives it a unique expressiveness. Shark teeth are an example of remarkable biological resilience. Their structure is enriched with fluoride-containing compounds, which enhance tissue strength and reduce the likelihood of damage. Furthermore, the dental row of these predators is constantly renewed. Lost elements are quickly replaced with new ones. Throughout its life, a shark can replace its teeth hundreds of times, maintaining its efficiency in capturing prey. This system ensures the longevity of the jaws without the need for external care and plays a crucial role in the species' survival. Camels demonstrate exceptional physiological adaptation to extremely arid conditions. In a short period, they can consume up to 130 liters of water, quickly restoring the body's water balance. Their blood is resistant to thickening during dehydration, and thermoregulation mechanisms minimize moisture loss through sweating. These features allow the animals to endure long treks across the desert, with and without regular sources of water. Due to this endurance, camels have earned the figurative title of ships of the desert. The spread of tea tradition is linked to an ancient Chinese legend about the ruler Shen Nong. According to the tale, while boiling water, leaves from a plant accidentally fell into the vessel, altering the taste of the drink. The resulting infusion turned out to be pleasant, and over time, its consumption became part of everyday culture. Regardless of the historical accuracy of the story, China is considered the birthplace of tea, which later spread across Asia, Europe, and other regions, becoming one of the most consumed beverages in the world. In 2017, Emma Marano passed away in Italy, the last confirmed person born in the 19th century. She lived for 117 years and became a living witness to colossal historical changes. Throughout her life, humanity transitioned from an era without aviation and mass electronics to a time of digital technologies and the global network. Murano survived world wars and shifts in political eras, and her biography symbolically closed an entire chapter of world history. Butterflies have taste organs located on their limbs, which is significantly different from the perception scheme familiar to humans. Sensory receptors on their legs analyze the chemical composition of surfaces when in contact with plants. This way, the insect determines the suitability of a nectar source or chooses an appropriate place to lay eggs. This mechanism allows for an instant assessment of the environment without the need to use the mouthparts. Evolutionarily, this system has proven to be effective as it provides a quick and accurate check of food resources. Sea stars use a unique feeding method related to the features of their anatomy. They are capable of extending part of their stomach through their mouth and placing it directly on the surface of their prey, such as bivalve mollusks. Digestion begins outside the body, after which the partially broken down food is drawn back in. This mechanism allows them to feed on organisms that cannot be swallowed whole. The strategy of external digestion is an effective adaptation to their benthic habitat. In the Patagonia region, there is a hill nicknamed the Singing Hill due to its unusual acoustic effect. At a certain wind strength, air passes through cracks and cavities in the rock, creating prolonged, melodic sounds. Such phenomena are explained by the combination of the shape of the stones, their density, and the configuration of the internal voids, which act as natural resonators. For observers, this is perceived as the natural music of the landscape, attracting tourists and turning the geological feature into a unique attraction. In Bhutan, a significant portion of the population travels on foot daily, which is related to the mountainous terrain and limited road infrastructure. In such rugged conditions, walking routes remain the most practical means of communication between settlements. This way of life fosters a strong connection between people and the surrounding nature and promotes high levels of physical activity without the need for organized training. Walking here is not an exception, but a natural part of everyday culture. Octopuses exhibit complex forms of behavior, including the use of surrounding objects for defensive purposes. Observations have shown that some species pick up halves of coconut shells, carry them along the ocean floor, and, when necessary, assemble them into makeshift shelters. For a soft-bodied animal lacking a skeleton and shell, such a strategy significantly increases its chances of survival. The use of objects as portable shelters is viewed by scientists as a manifestation of advanced cognitive abilities and the capacity for planning actions in a changing environment. Bubble wrap was originally created not as packaging material. In the middle of the last century, engineers experimented with the idea of a decorative wall covering, believing that the air pockets would give interiors an unusual texture. However, the design concept did not gain widespread popularity. Soon, it was noticed that the material effectively absorbs shocks and protects fragile items during transportation. Thus, an unsuccessful interior design project transformed into a universal packaging solution, which later gained unexpected popularity as a simple stress relief method. The water that humans consume today is part of a global cycle that has existed for millions of years. Molecules transition from the oceans to the atmosphere, then return to the surface as precipitation, and are once again incorporated into natural processes. Thus, contemporary sources of water may contain the same molecular structures that were present on the planet during the age of dinosaurs. This continuous cycle highlights the interconnectedness of natural systems and the unity of the past and present within the planetary ecosphere. The number of possible chess games is astronomically large and exceeds the number of atoms in the observable universe. Even in the opening moves, a colossal variety of combinations arises, which increases in geometric progression with each subsequent move. This complexity explains why each game is unique and practically unrepeatable. The theoretical richness of options makes chess not only an intellectual competition, but also a space for strategic creativity, where each decision opens a new branch of event development. Iceland is one of the few regions in the world where mosquitoes are absent. The characteristics of the local climate, sharp temperature fluctuations, and prolonged cold periods disrupt the life cycle of these insects, preventing them from reproducing consistently. The larvae do not have enough time to develop into adults due to the unstable environmental conditions. For travelers, this means the opportunity to spend time by bodies of water and in natural areas without the usual discomfort associated with insects, making the experience particularly enjoyable. One of the longest living land animals is a tortoise named Jonathan, residing on the island of St. Helena. According to experts, her age approaches 190 years, meaning she was born in the 19th century. Throughout her life, humanity has transitioned from steam engines to space technologies. Meanwhile, the tortoise leads a calm and unchanging lifestyle, remaining a living witness to historical eras. Today, Jonathan attracts the attention of researchers and tourists as a unique example of biological longevity. One of the oldest known jokes was discovered on a Sumerian clay tablet dated to around the beginning of the second millennium before our era. The text contains a domestic joke based on a theme that remains understandable even today. This fact indicates that humor has accompanied humanity for thousands of years. Alongside laws, economic records, and mythological texts, ancient written sources have preserved examples of everyday wit, demonstrating that the desire to laugh at simple life situations is a universal trait of culture. In Switzerland, the regulations regarding pet ownership are enshrined in law and take into account their behavioral characteristics. Keeping guinea pigs alone is prohibited, as they are social animals that require constant contact with their kind. Isolation can lead to stress, decreased activity, and deterioration of health. Therefore, owners are required to provide companionship for their pets, at least one other individual of the same species. This approach reflects the recognition of the emotional needs of animals and emphasizes that the responsibility for them goes beyond mere care and feeding. The cougar has one of the most extensive ranges among terrestrial predators in the Western Hemisphere. Its habitat stretches from the northern regions of Canada to the southern areas of Chile, encompassing mountain ranges, forests, deserts, and semi-deserts. The species demonstrates high ecological plasticity, adapting to diverse climatic conditions. Unlike some other large cats, the cougar is capable of existing near human settlements while maintaining a secretive lifestyle. This versatility ensures its resilience in a changing environment. In the state of Minnesota, there is an anechoic chamber with an extremely low noise level of about 9 decibels. This space is designed to virtually eliminate sound reflections and external acoustic interference. Inside, a person begins to distinctly hear their own physiological processes, including their heartbeat and the movement of blood. Such conditions are used for precise acoustic measurements and equipment testing. However, for unprepared visitors, such profound silence can be psychologically unsettling. The word set is considered one of the most polysemous in the English language and is often cited as a lexical record holder. Major dictionaries attribute more than 400 meanings and nuances to it, making it a unique example of semantic flexibility. Depending on the context, it can denote an action, process, state, or object. To set the table, to set a signal, to set a direction, or to set a result. This versatility demonstrates the ability of the English language to expand the meaning of a single root through grammar and idiomatic expressions. Such words add dynamism to speech, but simultaneously create challenges for language learners, as understanding requires precise consideration of context. The snail, seemingly a slow creature, possesses a complex mouthpart with thousands of microscopic teeth. These structures are located on a special organ called the radula, which functions like a flexible grater. With its help, the mollusk scrapes plant material, algae, and other organic debris from hard surfaces. Each tooth is extremely small and can only be seen under magnification. However, together they form an effective feeding tool. This adaptation allows snails to utilize a variety of food sources and successfully survive in different environments. Pigs demonstrate a high level of cognitive abilities that is often underestimated. Experiments show that they are capable of solving simple, logical problems, learning sequences of actions, and remembering the locations of objects. In some tests of learning and spatial orientation, pigs achieved results comparable to or even faster than those of dogs. Elements of social behavior were also observed, including attempts to distract a competitor in order to obtain food. This data allows us to consider pigs as some of the most intellectually advanced domestic animals. The Goliath bird eater is recognized as the largest spider on Earth by mass and leg span. Its legs can reach a length of approximately 30 centimeters, and its weight can exceed 170 grams, making it a true giant among arthropods. The diet of this species is not limited to insects. It is capable of consuming small vertebrates, including lizards and small rodents. When threatened, the spider produces a characteristic sound created by rubbing its legs together. Despite its impressive size, its venom poses no lethal danger to humans and is comparable in effect to a wasp sting. The ability to blush is considered a characteristic trait of humans and is directly related to the functioning of the autonomic nervous system. Under the influence of strong emotions, such as embarrassment, excitement, or romantic arousal, the blood vessels in the face dilate, increasing blood flow to the skin. As a result, noticeable redness appears on the cheeks. In other animals, a similar reaction does not manifest in a visible form, as their vascular and skin characteristics are structured differently. Blushing becomes a unique social signal, reflecting internal states and playing a role in interpersonal communication. The giant squid has some of the largest eyes among all living creatures. Their diameter reaches about 25 centimeters, comparable to the size of a basketball. This anatomical feature is related to the living conditions at great depths of the ocean, where sunlight barely penetrates. The enormous visual organs allow them to detect faint light signals, including flashes of bioluminescence and the movement of potential predators such as sperm whales. In constant darkness, high light sensitivity becomes a key factor for survival. The skeleton of a shark is not made of bone tissue, but rather of strong and elastic cartilage. This structure reduces body mass and increases flexibility, providing high maneuverability in the water. The cartilaginous framework, combined with powerful muscles, allows the predator to make sharp turns and swift bursts during hunting. An additional advantage is the continuous growth throughout its life, enabling certain species to reach significant sizes. The lightness and resilience of the internal structure make sharks efficient swimmers and explain their stability as a group over millions of years of evolution. In some primates, including macaques, the mobility of the tongue is limited by the characteristics of their muscular structure. Unlike humans, they cannot freely stick it out. However, this anatomical specificity does not hinder them from effectively feeding and interacting with their environment. Macaques compensate for this limitation with high dexterity of their fingers and precise coordination of movements, allowing them to process solid food and perform complex manipulations. This example clearly demonstrates how evolution distributes functions among different parts of the body while maintaining the overall adaptability of the species. In Australia, there is Lake Hillier, known for its unusual pink color. Scientists attribute this effect to the activity of microorganisms and the high concentration of salts and minerals. Notably, the color remains stable even when water is taken into a separate container, which sets it apart from many other natural bodies of water. This phenomenon continues to spark research interest, while simultaneously attracting travelers with its stunning palette. The University of Al-Qarawiyyin is considered the oldest active university in the world. The institution was founded in the 9th century in the city of Fez by Fatima al-Fihri, who dedicated her inheritance to create a religious and educational complex. Over time, the Center of Learning evolved into an important scientific institution where theology, law, mathematics, and natural sciences were studied. The fact that the university was founded by a woman in that era highlights the significance of her contribution and demonstrates that educational initiatives can endure for centuries. In the state of Texas, there is an unusual place that tourists unofficially refer to as the Doll City. Once, it was a mining settlement, but over time, the area became filled with old dolls placed on buildings, fences, and trees. Eventually, this feature turned into a local attraction, drawing enthusiasts of unique routes. The atmosphere of the space is perceived as a mystical installation in the open air, where elements of everyday objects create an expressive and slightly unsettling visual effect. An apple is composed of almost entirely water, with the proportion reaching around 90% of the total mass of the fruit. This high moisture content is what defines its juiciness and refreshing properties. Combined with natural sugars, fiber, and vitamins, water makes the apple a convenient source of quick energy and hydration. Thanks to its thick skin and internal structure, the fruit can retain its freshness for a relatively long time without losing its essential qualities, making it one of the most practical natural foods for everyday consumption. The peregrine falcon is considered the fastest representative of the animal kingdom in a dive. During a hunting stoop, the bird's speed can approach 400 kilometers per hour. Achieving such figures is related to aerodynamic features. The falcon folds its wings and takes on a streamlined shape, minimizing air resistance. The sharp acceleration and precise calculation of trajectory allow it to effectively strike prey in the air. This strategy makes the peregrine falcon an example of high adaptation to a predatory lifestyle. In Norway, there are humorous competitions for throwing frozen salmon, which, over time, have gained the status of a tourist attraction. Participants compete for distance, using the large fish as a unique sporting projectile. Initially, this idea emerged as a local pastime, but later transformed into an element of festival culture. The events are accompanied by music, street food, and a festive atmosphere, highlighting their entertaining nature. Such traditions reflect the national tendency towards irony and demonstrate how unusual initiatives become part of cultural identity. The Venus flytrap exhibits complex behavioral responses despite lacking a nervous system. Its trap is equipped with sensitive hairs that react to touch. Closing the lobes requires not one, but several consecutive stimuli, which prevents false triggering. Furthermore, the subsequent process of digestion also depends on the number of mechanical signals. This system indicates the presence of a basic mechanism for counting and short-term memory of stimuli, making the plant an example of high biological specialization. The nickname of Chicago as the Windy City is historically linked not so much to the climate as to the political rhetoric of the 19th century. Journalists of that time ironically characterized local politicians as prone to long and loud speeches, full of pomp. The expression hinted at the wind of words rather than weather conditions. Although the city is indeed located by Lake Michigan and subject to strong air currents, the original meaning of the nickname had a satirical tone. Over time, the irony faded, and the name became established as an unofficial symbol of the city. The Great Wall of China is the largest continuous defensive complex in history. The total length of the structure exceeds 20,000 kilometers. Even with daily travel over significant distances, the journey from one end to the other would take many months of continuous movement. The wall traverses mountain ranges, plains, and desert areas, reflecting the diversity of China's landscapes. The scale of this engineering project highlights not only the military objectives of ancient times, but also the colossal organizational capabilities of the society that managed to undertake such an extensive construction. Large whales play a significant role in the global carbon cycle. Throughout their lives, they accumulate substantial amounts of carbon in their body tissues, and after their natural death, their mass sinks to the ocean floor. In this way, carbon is removed from the biological cycle and can remain isolated from the atmosphere for an extended period. Researchers estimate that the amount of sequestered carbon is comparable to the emissions of dozens of cars over years of operation. As a result, these marine giants indirectly contribute to the reduction of greenhouse gas concentrations and become an important element of natural climate regulation. Cattle are indeed capable of ascending stairs, but descending is extremely challenging for them. The reason lies in the anatomy of their limbs. The joints and distribution of body mass are adapted for forward movement on flat surfaces, but not for controlled descent along an inclined path. When attempting to go down, the center of gravity shifts, increasing the risk of losing balance and sustaining injuries. This is why cows are generally not kept on elevated platforms with staircases. This example illustrates how the physical structure of an animal determines the behavioral capabilities of each species.